Hello friends, my name is Ness, and today I'm working with Disney Publishing Worldwide in a paid promotion for Unearthed by Amie Kaufman and Meagan, and we're going to be talking about stories set in space. This book is set to be published on January 9th, and it is about a message that gets intercepted from a presumably long extinct alien race, and that alien race's technology and their planet might be the answer or the solution to the environmental damage that has occurred on Earth. This story follows two characters who are determined to get onto this planet for very different reasons. Julian is a scientist and Mia is something of a scavenger, but they end up having to form an unlikely alliance in order to survive. I'm super excited to have a chance to participate in this promotion for several reasons. One is that I read These Broken Stars by Amie Kaufman and Meagan, and I really loved the story. Two is that I'm always in the mood for a good space story. I should say that that is probably a more recent development in my media consumption. I was recently talking to my best friend about this because her and I both are this rare human that completely missed the boat on the whole Star Wars thing. I've never watched a movie, and I don't say that with any kind of pride, especially now later in life where I've really come to appreciate science fiction and fantasy, not only in my reading life but in all the media that I consume. I think space is a great setting for a number of reasons. There is this uncanny feeling that space provides and this impression that anything could happen. It's different too from a fantasy setting where that world is completely divorced from ours. Space as a setting provides a twofold experience. Something that we can recognize and identify, something that feels just at the tip of our fingers, but also something that has an innate alien quality to it. And the kind of foreboding that comes along with knowing that there is this limitless unknown. I think space allows us to confront a number of ideas, whether that's the idea of being an outsider, whether that's stepping outside of the cultural norms, or the idea of being an explorer or being at the edge of society or on a frontier. Probably one of my favorite space stories of all times is Firefly. This is a show that more obviously takes this idea of a Western frontier and translates it into space. The show follows an ensemble cast, and they are the renegade crew of a spaceship whose captain fought on the losing side of a civil war. I love this tragically short TV show so much for its characters, for the way that it explores this idea of a found family, and for the way that the show uses the setting of space to put the crew really on their own and heighten the plight of being on those fringes of society. Another space story that I really enjoyed was Fuzzy Nation by John Scalzi. This is a story about a man who works as an independent contractor for a corporation that prospects and surveys planets on the condition that there is no sentient life on that planet. Our main character Jack accidentally discovers a very valuable vein of jewels, and he gets fired for the accident, but not before laying claim to the jewels. Things get a little bit more messy when he discovers this fuzzy biped on the planet, and things continue on from there. I love that this story explored that idea of sentient life and of discovering this fuzzy, as he calls it in the story, and what that means for him, for these jewels that he's just discovered, for the corporation, and it puts at the head of it a very self-interested main character. I loved him and I thought that this was hilarious, but he is very selfish and very self-interested, which adds some humor to the story because you have somebody who's not used to doing the right thing trying to do the right thing. Another book that deals with that idea of life on alien planets and in space is the Chaos Walking trilogy. The Knife of Never Letting Go is the first book in that trilogy by Ness. In this story we have settlers who have gone to this other planet to establish what is supposed to be like a utopia, and it turns into a dystopia. There are no women on this planet, and all of the men can hear each other's thoughts, or so it seems at the very onset of our story. This is one of those very rare series in which the second book I think is much better than the first book, and the continuing saga of what it means for these people on this planet, what they've always been told about their settlement, and encountering the native life on the planet was so interesting to me. This story takes the idea of looking into space for new and better, and it not being so simple or not always going exactly to plan. Another space story that I really enjoy is Doctor Who. For all of its ups and downs, for all of its weirdness, and for all of its wrapping up certain stories with because of science, I really just love Doctor Who. I love the idea of all of time and space being opened up to the Doctor, and how the exploration of those two frontiers make him this constant mixture of hopeful and optimistic, but also very world weary. The early seasons of Doctor Who were all working with like $1 budget from the BBC, so a lot of the space and alien effects were not great. Though it's a credit to the story that on a lot of occasions they still work. They still give you these aliens who you can relate to or sympathize, or very creepy storylines. If you told me tomorrow that we found a way to very easily and cheaply travel to space, I would not sign up for that expedition. But if you told me tomorrow that the TARDIS was going to show up in my home, I would reconsider. I'm super excited to dive into Unearthed because I love the idea of this unlikely alliance, but also because of what I've read previously from these authors. They do a good job about tackling this idea of the strange in space. So I'm excited to see if that continues on in this book. I'm super excited because Amie Kaufman and Meagan Spooner are stopping in Miami on their tour for Unearthed, and I'm planning on being there. So I'm really happy to be able to listen to them talk about this book. Thank you so much to Disney Publishing Worldwide for sending me a copy and for sponsoring this video. I'd love to talk to you guys down in the comments about space stories and what you think of them, especially because again, these are not very much stories that I grew up with. I'm missing a lot of the classics. I know, like I said, I've never watched a Star Wars movie, but I will say that growing up, my sisters and I used to watch the crap out of Spaceballs. I basically have the plot of Star Wars down already, don't I? Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon.